marine plastics is such a huge problem, but at the same time, it's probably one of the most manageable.
Let's pretend that global plastic production stopped today. That doesn't really matter though, because there's so much plastic in the ocean now.
Yeah.
It's an issue that will be with us for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They found plastic in the Mariana Trench. They found it.
Crazy.
You can now find persistent organic pollutants in the flesh of game fish. It's in our systems as well. So if the plastic industry was brought to its knees today, it's still a problem we're going to face. It's like ice skating uphill, and it's certainly overtaken overfishing as the great, in my opinion, the greatest global threat to the health of our oceans. It's shocking. We published a paper in 2013 with some colleagues from Australia that looked at weather balloons, and we determined that the Australian Bureau of Meteorology releases X amount of 100 weather balloons every day. Most of them are within 50 miles of the coast, but they have no salvage agenda. So you're releasing these huge latex balloons with batteries and cables and radiosondes and things like this. And we worked out something like in the Great Barrier Reef Marine Heritage Area, over 70% of these weather balloons that were released within 50 miles of the coast would end up in the water. And because there's no salvage agenda, there's nobody out there looking for it. So there's the terrestrial problem, but there's also the marine problem too. And people think latex, it's natural, it's okay. But when these balloons burst to altitude and they come back down to earth and they shred, they actually mimic jellyfish or squid, and turtles will eat them. So this was something we did to try and change policy at the government level in Australia, because certainly in the US, parts of the US, you can get the same weather data from other technologies, whereas Australia was still using this archaic method. And the name of the paper was called Predictable Pollution, because every day these weather balloons go up and they come down in the Great Barrier Reef. They smother corals, they kill turtles and other animals. And this is a government scientific program that's trying to get data about the atmosphere. It doesn't make any sense. It's counterintuitive and counterproductive.
Absolutely. That's the first I've ever even heard of it. So, wow.
Yeah, it was published in the Marine Pollution Bulletin in 2013 with a group that I used to represent called the Tangaroa Blue, which is an Australian marine debris initiative run by a wonderful lady called Heidi Taylor, who has been an absolute inspiration to me over the years, as well as somebody that gets the job done. And she's a prime example of how one person's voice can have a great impact.
In academia, you're dedicating your life to understanding an ecosystem, but then there are people out there that really have dedicated their lives to actually physically protecting the ecosystem. You know,
there's a great organization in Australia, and we used to cite their motto a lot. So if everybody in Australia picked up 3 pieces of litter a day, there would be 66 million less pieces of litter in the environment in Australia every day. And it's doing little things that have huge repercussions. And again, Dominic, it all boils down to education and communication. It's such a simple thing. If I see trash in the water, I'll pick it up. If everybody did that, think of the impact.
If you can change something 1% every day, you'll be 37% better at something by the end of the year. And that it might seem like a tiny step at the time, but it's huge. So yeah, like you said, 3 pieces of plastic a day, and how many people doing that? It's a massive impact. Yeah.
Like I said earlier on, it goes back to, don't be fooled into thinking that a small group of friends cannot change the world. And when people vote as well, why should I vote? Because my one vote isn't going to make a difference. But if 10 million people thought that, then maybe elections would have different turnouts. So, you should never underestimate the power that you have as an individual, and you should never feel intimidated by sharing your voice, even if you think it's going to be a lone voice in a huge vacuum. There will be others, and the inspiration needs to be, people will be inspired and people will follow that sort of mentality a lot of the time. And again, hopefully this platform we're talking on today might inspire people to do something.